also representing more specifically the hydrospatial movement club and community. So yes, I am not heavy users of LinkedIn. I'm hyperactive on LinkedIn because I found that with retirement I have more time. I didn't have the time before to go on the social media, but since I realized that the powerfulness of social media to, yes, influence, but also to be part of conversation and to be part of issues that are emerging and that are coming up. So it's an exciting time. Yesterday, I was so impressed to see the employers and students roundtables, because when I graduated from university, I was fortunate to start working with the Canadian Hydrographic Service, but at the time it was very difficult to find a full-time job. So now I see that there are options. It's an exciting decade. The United Nations, a decade of ocean science starting, so to 2030 as well. The Seabed 2030 that was just mentioned, and the version of Lakebed 2030 here inland. And we're really in the technology revolution, so it's really fun to have all this information. Okay, so that's okay. So let's start the presentation. So, oops. Should I use the arrow instead?
There you go, Karen. There.
Okay. So hydrospatial, that's the first part of my presentation, because I think it's important to go back and to explain what it is, what it's not. Yes, and it's fun to be keynote speaker on the second day of the conference, because in the first day you're kind of cold and you have to warm up the room, and the room is fully warmed up right now. So I think, and at the same time, I've learned a lot yesterday. It was an interesting day, good presentations in the morning, excellent presentation in the afternoon as well. So I took some notes and I just adjusted my presentation last night to the tone of yesterday, or at least what I understood of it from my modest interpretation. So hydrospatial data for better understanding of the Great Lakes. This is the title of my presentation, and I want to clarify, and you will see that likely on every of my slide or close to, hydrospatial is not replacing hydrography. It's not. I will come back to that. So the term was first introduced in the early 2000s in the UK, and it re-emerged with more influence and more push in 2020. And when I made a presentation at the Canadian Hydrographic Conference in February 2020, as an alternative to use marine geospatial or marine spatial. But again, it's not a replacement for hydrography. That's never intended to be, and it's not going to be. The original suggested draft was probably what created some confusion, because we used the definition of the hydrography from the International Hydrographic Organization to frame the definition of hydrospatial at the time. And since it has changed, it has improved, and it will continue to improve. So, geography, geospatial, hydrography, why not hydrospatial? This is really the point that I'm trying to make here. So why, again, marine geography would have been probably good enough for hydrography. Why did we put hydrography as a definition and wanted to frame that? It's pretty clear for me. I think it was very obvious that with more than 70% of our blue planet being water, hydrography needs its particular terminology. So in the same fashion, for hydrospatial, if we use geospatial and we want to focus on the marine, we say marine geospatial or blue geospatial or marine spatial. Let's just use hydrospatial. That's the point. Who should use that? I'm expecting that all the people in this room, all the people that have an interest in the blue of our blue planet should use it. If they have not, they should start using it. where, you know, for all the projects and all the elements that relates to the blue of our blue planet, the coastal zones as well, when, let's start right now and in the future, for those of you who have not started to use it, and how, just use it. It's as simple as that. So what is hydrospatial? You know, in simple words, it's an adjective. It is all about the blue of our blue planet and its contiguous zone. What is meant by contiguous zone? It is the coastal zone, the flooding areas, the wetlands, the water column, the bottom, the sub-bottom, the surface, the interface with atmosphere. So it is really a synonymous to the blue geospatial plus. Why geospatial plus? Because if we, in my interpretation, and again, that's my own interpretation, geospatial has been often used for the land side, for the dry side of surveying, where, you know, when you want to focus on the wet side, on the blue side, on the water side, you often say blue geospatial, or more specifically, marine geospatial. So again, why plus? It's because geospatial is often used for the dry land side. So the plus includes the coastal zone and the flooding areas, and it's contributing to the sustainable blue economy. One thing that you see at the bottom of the screen, and it will come back, there is a link to the linking group to become member of the hydrospatial community. And there is also a link to a story map on hydrospatial. And this story map, you know, the story map is like a website with more information about what I'm presenting to you this morning and more elements of hydrospatial that you might be interested in. Should I use the? It doesn't change. Okay. Did it work with that? Okay, so hydrospatial is the blue geospatial plus. Again, you see the logo of Hydrospatial Movement Club and Community, and also a link to the most recent International Hydrographic Review article on hydrospatial if you're interested in it. Whoops. So what it is not, and it's interesting, yesterday someone made a presentation about explaining, defining something about what it's not. So really the hydrospatial is not, it's not a replacement for the term hydrography. Hydrography is a strong science, it's a strong technical field. It is there to stay. It's not a redefinition of hydrography, although I admitted that probably I created confusion by framing that with the definition of hydrography. It's not an imposition on the hydrographic community. It's not another fancy word. It's not a noun, it's an adjective, and that's where also there was some confusion at the beginning with the adoption of the term. So since February 2020, there was a creation of the Hydrospatial Movement Club and Community that I'm co-leading with another person. There were many publications in the International Hydrographic Review, the Hydro International Magazine, the Environment, Coastal and Offshore Magazine News, called ECHO, and many others, as well as presentation. Mostly virtual in the last 2 years, but more and more in person since the pandemic has completed. So the most recent definition, which is still kind of maturing and changing, is the treetop line. It's a generic concept defining the vast global domain, including all the blue of our blue planet and its contiguous zone for sustainable blue economy. So this is what it is. The rest is kind of providing a little bit more background about the spatial temporality of the data, not only physical like hydrography is, but also biological and chemical. And what is important is this spatial temporality of this data are also the information and the knowledge which hydrographers are the best positioned to provide in terms of data, in terms of positioning, and in terms of timing. Hydrography is more primarily focused on safety and efficiency of navigation, and hydrospatial is meant to be broader. So the movement club, here you have a map of the world where you see there are 15 members of the club located at different places in different continents. Why 15? There could be 25 or 50 or 100. We have a community of 4,700 members globally. So 15 was defined as a manageable group to represent regionally, globally, the interest. And you see the distribution here. And again, at the bottom, the link for the story map and the LinkedIn group if you want to join the 4,700 members. Those are the members of the club. You see myself at the top on the first line, and just besides me is Rafael Ponce from Esri. You also see on that line Karen Coe from Teledyne Geospatial, I should say. On the second line, members of the nodes from Australasia and Africa. So John Mashke from Australia and Lydia Gudonavu from Fiji. From Africa, we have Dr. Eli Katra, who is a geologist, a marine geologist. Victoria Ubura from Kenya. And the third line, the European node with Emanuela Mihailov from Romania. Michael Bergman from Germany. And from South America, Colombia, Paula Echeverry. And from Brazil, Ana Carolina Lavagno. And on the last line, you have the members from the nodes in Asia and India. So we have here Pari Owe from the Port of Singapore and Perlin Pang from the Port of Singapore as well. And at your right, from the Republic of Korea, Seon Pil Kim and Dr. Glita Plakao from India. The point here, the reason why I'm showing faces, because nothing is done without individuals. So it's all about people. And those individuals are doing, like me, that on a volunteer basis. They have a full-time job. They are committed. The main objective of Hydrospatial is to connect different professions together that have an interest in our blue planet. So it used to be primarily hydrographers and some marine geologists, but it is my perception that what connects us even more now, it's the technology. You know, it's a little bit like GPS 20, 30 years ago. Only the land surveyors knew about GPS. Nobody had GPS. Oh my God, it's a very interesting tool. So now who doesn't have a GPS? Well, I have one. It's all on our phone. So multi-beam echo sounders, fishermen has that. Anybody that can afford to buy one, it's affordable and it's out there. So more and more are using that. In the past, not long ago, about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, but it was unaffordable for land surveyors. When I saw the little toys like the EcoBoat on the ear and display, it's still expensive for a land surveyor, but it is affordable now. If you have a contract, you can acquire equipment, you can partner with others to use this equipment. So it's more than hydrography from that perspective. And most of those members, some are from the legal aspect of the exclusive economic zone, some are from industry, as you notice, some are, a couple are retired, but not that many, 2 of them. And others are from the marine geophysics, marine geology, hydrography, of course. This is my roots, and I'm very proud of that, and others as well. From port management, from shipping, commercial type of business, and also from marine biology and marine geology and geophysicists. So this is a good cross section that demonstrates that hydrospatial is much more than hydrography, but not to say that hydrography is not important. It's the foundation and will always remain fundamentally important. So let's connect that to Lakebed 2030, Seagull as a platform. It is an outstanding platform. But already I visited the site and I can see that there's much more than bathymetry. But bathymetry is the objective. Bathymetry is the context. Bathymetry is something we need to have for Lakebed 2030 or Seabed 2030. But there's more. There is waves, there is water level, there is also water temperature, there is bottom characterization, name it. So most of the users of Seagull are looking for hydrospatial data system. That's what it is already. If you don't like the terminology, that's okay. I'm just trying to, of course, you can see that, pushing the term that it's more than bathymetry, where bathymetry is still the foundation of all that. Whoops. Okay, crowdsourced bathymetry was mentioned yesterday, and this slide is primarily about crowdsourced bathymetry. But what I added is citizen science. Citizen science is, and Tim mentioned that yesterday, it is important because we can provide much more information about, shore base on the coastline, affordable, again, meteorological information about wind direction, wind speed, waves, water level in areas where official hydrographic offices like NOAA, Office of Coast Survey, and CHS do not have stations. So it is additional information that could come from citizens, that could come from crowdsource. And of course, the quality, I'm going to come back to quality and uncertainty of the data. It's not going to be as accurate, as higher resolution as the official organization. But is it good enough? My perspective is it's good enough when we don't have the information. Data is data. As long as you know the quality and the uncertainty of it, I think it's valuable for the users. Of course, you know that crowdsource is coming from cruise ship, from shipping, commercial shipping, boating, recreational boating, yachting, and also going down to a central database. IHO DCDB is the place where this data is maintained. And this is, I think, a very good place to maintain this data, to archive it, to retrieve it, to, in the context of IHO, now there is a policy, there is something adopted, so it's clear how it connects with the updating of EGDIS, the updating of formal information, and also issuing on a as required basis notices to mariners or navigational warning. So the powerfulness of the citizen science is incredible, especially in the context of Lakebed, because even with all the willingness, the resources will always be limited. Hydrographic offices in US and Canada have limited resources, have also priorities in other areas than the Great Lakes. So that kind of collaboration and partnership that was already mentioned is necessary. Quality and certainty of hydrospatial data and information is paramount. For those who are following my LinkedIn post, I posted that about a month ago with these visuals, which is very powerful. Of course, and don't take me wrong here, we have to aim for high precision, high accuracy all the time. Can we afford it to do it all the time? I don't think we can. Do we need that all the time? I don't think we have to have the highest accuracy and highest precision all the time. And that's where the crowdsource and the science citizen comes into play. So clearly, let's target for the bullseye. And I think our official organization, hydrographic offices, NOAA, Office of Coast Survey, and Canadian Hydrographic Service will offer this higher standard. But you can be lower accuracy and high precision. You will not be to the bullseye, but you will be very concentrated, and you will likely know quantitatively how far you are from the bullseye. Similarly, if you have high accuracy and low precision, you will be closer possibly for the bullseye, but spread more than precise. And it's good, again, if you can quantify, at least qualify the value of this data. And the most important point of this slide is the one that is low accuracy and low precision. Of course, we don't want to miss the target. So the one point outside the target, it's probably data that we could either reject or keep with some qualifier. Again, it is a decision to be made by whoever is managing the database or the information that is published. Again, is it better to have low accuracy, low precision of areas, geographical areas, where you have few data or no data, and when you can appreciate the value, the quality and uncertainty of this data, even if it's outside the target, like in the corner, the bottom corner here? Personally, I think all data is data as long as you qualify it, as you provide uncertainty. Could be with color coding, could be with level 1 category of zone of confidence, A, B, C, D, add lower level if possible, or unverified. And maybe that's the type of data that would be archived elsewhere, that maybe hydrographic offices would not validate immediately. I understand the challenge. The challenge is some would argue that it's better not to put out there data that is not that good, because some people would expect that it's good enough, so there might be risky decision made. But again, the challenge is if you can have in your metadata the information about quality and uncertainty clear enough. You know, the main component are the latitude, longitude, height and depth, and many more when I was talking about temperature, when I was talking about all other elements of hydrospatial, and the time becomes more and more relevant in terms of the temporality, and it was mentioned yesterday. So, you know, the sigma is about this quantification as much as possible of this quality, and if it's not possible to quantify it, qualify it. And this is something I think that is important, especially in areas where it's difficult to go. Satellite-derived bathymetry is a tool. It's imperfect. It's not fitting everywhere. It's not going as far, but it provides information of a certain quality. And if properly attached to metadata, I hope that users will understand, and I think we can educate the users about what is high quality versus low quality. You know, weather forecasting is a good example. Weather forecasting is not always right, often wrong, but better and better because there's more data, and this data is often coming from citizens' science. Lego block. Do you play with Lego blocks? Have you grandchildren or children played with Lego blocks? You know, the Lego blocks with all the mixed colors, size, and shape and form is the top one. You know, we have those boxes, so you can just throw that on a table and try to play with it. But you know, it's always easier if you sort them, if you arrange them, if you present them visually and by size to explain, to use, and build something. So the same thing with data. So hydrospatial data must be clean and organized. And we had a very good presentation yesterday by Teradem talking about that. And you know, it's fun to acquire data. You're going out there, you're having a lot of data, but the challenge starts with management of data. So it's obvious, but my grandchildren, no, I don't have grandchildren yet, but my children at the time, when I remember, they had boxes of all the data together, all the blocks mixed up, and we never really sort them out. It was done all the time. So when you have time, when you want to play, that's great. But when you want to be efficient and you want to be able to answer to your users, it's important to have this cleanliness and organized fashion. building the great hydrospatial map. I just added that like last night. I took a picture of the shirt you gave us or the first day and the water bottle to add some more flavor again, more about the Great Lakes. But it's all about data and data standards. It was well articulated in NOME when Admiral Evans presented that yesterday. It's all about the standards. How to find this data is the first and foremost element. And I think with Glass, with Siegel, the storefront is there now. It's just to have more data in the warehouse. It has to be accessible, interoperable. If you go back to the slide about the Lego blocks, of course, there are bigger blocks that are not called Lego. I don't remember what they're called. So if you try to mix the two together, it doesn't fit. It's a little bit like different quality, different uncertainty of data, but you can develop some interface to have them work together in some fashion. So the interoperability is very important, and standards, if they are all followed, interoperability will come by default. But we know that we're not there yet. So interoperability will remain a challenge, and all this data must be reusable. One thing I want to say about Lakebed 2030, and where Admiral Evans mentioned that very clearly yesterday, and I think it's worth repeating. It's beautiful to have, you know, a defined geographic footprint like the Great Lakes. It's huge, but compared to Seabed 2030, it's contained. So you can more easily plan, assess. 200 million, you said, Tim. So is it 250 or 195? It's in this order of magnitude. So but the seabed with all the ocean is more complex. And we know that technology, if we achieve something, will be the key for that, because the standard ship-based type of surveys will not be sufficient. In the Great Lakes, it's possible with ship-based, but still, it's going to take a lot of effort and energy. But the fact that the lakes are well defined geographically, and there are only 2 nations, and there is no international sea part of that, so it makes that easier. It's still a challenge, but it is a beautiful, bold commitment to of Lakebed 2030 to have this great hydrospatial map by 2030. So in conclusion, join the club, join the community. It is about the blue of our blue planet. It is interesting to see, I met a person from another field that would not yesterday, from Detroit, from US Corps of Engineering, and again, what connects us is a technology, common technology, with different professional background and different professional objectives. So it is nice to connect, and the intent of the movement is really to connect different professionals in the blue of our blue planet to exchange, to share information. It's volunteer, it's free, it's not that important in terms, essential, I would say, for what you do on a daily basis. But I believe in the connectivity of people. I believe that the strategy could be developed between different fields. And unfortunately, it will there will continue to be some duplication. But I think it's going to decrease. It already decreases in the federal organization, Canada and US. There's more and more synergy, but there will still be some challenges. So the intent of the hydrospatial movement, club and community, is to connect, and to connect informally using social media. And I'm proud to say that we have now more than 4,700 global members. Some of them, of course, are very active. Some of them are very passive, and you're just looking at the post. But I think for the Great Lakes, similarly, I think there are many sites. Right now, there are so many sites that were flooded with information. But anyway, this one is one that hopefully could help you. And so this is what I wanted to share with you this morning. Our most recent published article is the one in Eco magazine last February, and we are going to to have another one in the International Hydrography Review, the next edition that is coming up in November. And again, the Great Lakes is important water regime, and all this information is needed. Hydrospatial information, all types of information. And I thank you very much. Merci beaucoup for your attention. There's still some time left, I think, for question, comments, or suggestion on how to improve. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Well, while you're thinking about a question, in case you're wondering what's just happening out there, Northwestern Michigan College is the home to the Great Lakes Maritime Academy, one of 6 federally approved maritime academies and the only one in the Great Lakes, and that is a training vessel. So we arranged that just for Michelle, that they come home and see, so you can see to show off a little bit. But we also have a member from the program here. If you have questions regarding that, feel free to ask. So back to our presenter. So thank you very much. Are there questions for him?
I'm here during the break if you want to come and see me, and if you want to reach me, it's easy via LinkedIn Messenger. And my email address as well.
Thanks, Denis, and congratulations on competing with the ship happening first. Those of us in uniform are definitely distracted from the others. So I'm going to maybe ask an unfair question, which is something not related directly to your presentation, but more related to your long experience in CHF and in this region. I'm guessing this isn't the first time, because the Lakebed 2030 initiative isn't the first time we thought about how can we improve our mapping data experience. And I'm wondering if, over the course of your career, if you have any experience or lessons learned or recommendations that you would draw from that to apply to what we're trying to do today.
Nothing really specific comes to mind directly. I think CLAS is doing an outstanding job. The college here is doing an outstanding job of bringing people together. You know, everything, at least from my experience, it's about the strategy, it's about the people, it's about action. And you know, you can mix that around, but usually when you don't have a strategy and you go to action too rapidly, you may not do the right thing in the right order, and you may have duplication. The people, I think, is always critical, but even more in this context of hydrospatial, where it's not only the hydrographers that would lead, they would provide a lot of leadership, don't take me wrong, but you know, marine geologists, environmentalists, park authorities like this, those are becoming as important to gel all together. So the people become more important. And the common denominator becomes the technology. I remember, because you're asking about experience, I went to a boat show in Vancouver maybe 5 or 6 years ago with the director of the West Coast of CHS. And we went to a booth with fishing gears, and they were selling a multi-beam. So we went to see the young guy there. Didn't have training in hydrography at all. Didn't know what was hydrography. He was using charts, but he was as good as our expert in CHS in terms of knowing what is a multi-beam, how it can provide. So, you know, my analogy with GPS, now everybody pretend themselves as expert in positioning because they use GPS. They are not, because they could not explain in front of a judge what and why something happened in a legal case. So you need to understand the datums, you need to understand the projection, you need to understand all the elements that will provide you this quality. Same thing with hydrographic data. You will need the hydrographers to explain that. But just to say that the technology is linking all the professions in the blue of our blue planet, and that's where the people become important. And the strategy, NOMEC is a great strategy. In Canada, we have the ocean plan, OPP, Ocean Protection Plan, which was renewed, so that's great. So governance is really driving and understanding that the blue economy is important. But really, I think I don't have any magical recipe except then maintaining the momentum that has been established, especially for Lakebed 2030. I applaud the leadership of GLOS and the college here to drive that, and it should continue, and official organizations such as NOAA and CHS should support that to be maintained, because that's the way we will be able to make it happen, by bringing people together in the strategy, not a part of the strategy. Thank you.